Hey guys, I hope you're having a beautiful day. Today I want to talk about one of the harder aspects of my anxiety that I dealt with, and that was the combination of my heart anxiety or cardiophobia mixed with my driving anxiety. They went hand in hand. Now don't get me wrong, I had other fears. There were other components to my driving anxiety that I'm going to discuss in further videos, like being afraid of having a stroke or a seizure, or just being nervous that I was going to have anxiety or panic if I was driving with somebody. That was another big component. But probably the hardest aspect was the combination of the heart anxiety with the driving anxiety, because that's how it all started. You know, after I had my first 6-hour-long panic attack, my chest really didn't unwind after that for weeks, and I dealt with on and off chest pain for the next couple years until I was finally able to get out of that. My heart anxiety lasted about two-ish years. And then exercise finally freed me of that. I was afraid to work out and stuff in the beginning because I was afraid either it was going to trigger me or that it was going to cause my heart to stop, or I was going to have a heart attack. I really struggled with acceptance. Even after a couple years, guys, I struggled with acceptance, even after seeing doctors and, getting some tests done. It was just so hard to fathom that anxiety could cause my body to act like this. And it could cause my heart to race as fast as it would race, to cause my chest to hurt as much as it would hurt. I just couldn't believe that anxiety could cause that. And then I had trouble understanding anxiety and how it worked. I didn't know that your body could cause symptoms, physical symptoms, even when you're not consciously anxious, right? Or aware of a threat. I mean, it made sense, guys, whenever I would get in a car why my chest would hurt a little bit more. But just sitting on the couch, guys, and getting chest pain, it really messed with my acceptance. So it made me think that there was just something that the doctors were missing. So I chased this for a couple years, very miserable, having panic attacks almost every single day. But getting into the car was almost a sure bet that I was going to have some form of a panic attack. It could be a little bit less, or maybe an anxiety attack. And at the very least, my chest would tighten up and I'd get a bunch of symptoms. And then I would have all these other little behaviors that I would go through, and I'll mention them on this video while I was driving, and we'll see if you can relate with any of them. But the driving anxiety started very, very quickly, probably within the first week of me developing anxiety. And just like anything else, I had a panic attack in that situation. And in this situation, it was in the car. And then I was afraid of that happening again. And whenever you have a panic attack in the car, especially the first time, you respond in fear, and your subconscious, your body, your mind is going to try to protect you every time you get near that car. And that's what it would do. Hell, even thinking about having to drive a long distance would make me antsy and would make my symptoms start to build up. And that's another component of this. We have a lot of anticipatory anxiety, like, oh man, like I got to go to work tomorrow, or oh man, I got to go on a work trip and it's going to take longer, or man, we're going on this vacation, it's 4 hours away, what am I going to do? So the anticipatory anxiety aspect of it is very rough, and you're getting into the car like a loaded gun, like you're already shaking and everything. And anxiety is something that I learned. Anxiety is going to do the opposite of what you want it to do. Sometimes you get lucky, right? But most of the time it's going to do the opposite. If you don't want to panic in the car, it's probably going to happen. If you don't want anxiety to show up and you're hoping and praying and pleading with it, that's actual fuel for the anxiety. It behaves like a bully in a way where, it feeds off of fear and it enhances it. So you have to change your perspective. You have to start believing that trip tomorrow in the car can go good for it to even be possible. It doesn't mean it's going to go great, but that's how you get the momentum going, and then you go in with exposure, but I'll touch on that in a minute. But I would get in the car, and depending on how far I would drive would depend on how bad my anxiety was. It seemed like I could get about 10 miles in before my anxiety would just get really, really bad to the point to where I would panic. But unfortunately, I had a job where I had to travel about, I'd say it was about 40 minutes or so, sometimes faster, sometimes longer. And that was so hard on me. I couldn't keep that job, and it was a great, great job for my age at the time. And just the travel, it would beat me up, man. Like my chest would start hurting a few miles in. So I'm sitting there, and I'll just run through some of the behaviors. I would start to rub my chest. If you saw me in the car, I was probably doing this. I had like a permanent red mark in the center of my chest and my sternum area from doing this. It was always red from me doing that. It was always slightly bruised because I didn't realize how hard I was pressing. it was just a comfort thing. I'm sure some of you can relate with that. I was always chugging cold water. You know, I'd be loaded up with a pot belly full of cold water whenever I would show up to wherever I was showing up for whatever reason. I mean, there is science behind cold water grounding you, so I guess there's that component. But I would chug, you know, a few bottles of cold water before I'd get to my destination. If things got really, really bad, guys, I would have to pull over, you know, at a gas station and try to get a breather and, you know, try to chill out a little bit. Most of the time that didn't even help. I would try to contact my mom far too often, or way too often, probably to the point of annoying her and frustrating her. I know in the beginning, our loved ones, guys, they're gonna try to understand, and as time goes on, this is just human nature, I think, and this happens to the best of us. A lot of people that I talk to, even the people that are closest to us, will start to get a little frustrated with us after a while because it's hard for them to understand. They're not going to understand unless they go through it, but they get frustrated, like, look, there's nothing wrong with you, or why are you acting like this? You're gonna be okay. Why do you have to keep calling me all the time? And, you know, and my mom was a nurse, so I would always ask her and tell her my symptoms, because I mean, I would have everything. My chest would start to hurt, and I would get chest pain all over the place. You know, sometimes it was consistent, but a lot of times it would change. I would get numbness and tingling all throughout my body, various areas, but one of my favorite places to get it was on the left side, of course. So my left arm, and I'd start to feel it my fingers first, and it would spread up my arm. And, you know, when you look that up, it's trying to tell you that you're having a heart attack. So I would get it on the left side, and I think some of that was just my mind directing it on the left side. I'm a firm believer that you can direct symptoms to any part of your body if you concentrate and focus or fear it enough. And that goes for any symptom: stomach pains, headaches, index finger pain. I'm talking about anything, literally anything. I feel like you could focus tension and energy anywhere in your body, and you can create symptoms. So yeah, the numbness, the tingling, and then the shortness of breath, the palpitations, my heart would be beating. So I would do this a lot. I'd drink a lot of water. I'd try to call my mom if things got really bad. If things got really bad, I'd pull over on the side of the road. It would cause me to be late to work. I was the manager, so I could get away with it, I guess, but it didn't help the situation. I would speed faster than what I needed to go. Nothing crazy, but I'm talking about I was probably always going 10 miles over the speed limit. Something else that I would do all the time is like, oh man, if I could just hurry up and get back, I won't have a heart attack. That's like how irrational I was. Like, if I can get home, my heart attack's gonna be like, just kidding. I'm glad you got back home. I was about to do it over there on the interstate. Man, you just beat me to it, you know? Like, it doesn't work like that. Something else I would do, I would grip the crap out of the freaking steering wheel. I would do that. What else would I do? I'd be checking my pulse. So I'd be like this, or, you know, I'd be checking my pulse over here. So yeah, that was another bad behavior that I had. Now, I didn't have like a fancy watch. I didn't have any like Apple watches, I think, back then anyways, that could, you know, calculate your heart rate or anything like that. But I'm sure if I had one of those, I'd probably just be looking at it all the time. So I encourage you guys, if you have heart anxiety, one of the things you got to do is you got to get away from checking the vitals if your doctor has told you that you are okay. The faster that you do that, the faster you're going to be able to actually have the possibility of getting better and starting your recovery journey. So get away from that. Give that to the loved one. Say, I don't need the watch right now. Sell it, whatever, bash it with a hammer, you name it. Same thing with the blood pressure thing. Unless a doctor has indicated that you need to be checking these things regularly, then don't do it, okay? Don't live like a heart patient if you don't want to have heart-like symptoms. And that's what I was doing, always directing fear and energy to my heart. So guess what? I would have symptoms here all the time. I was always checking my pulse, so it would always race. Always checking my blood pressure whenever I could get out on a break from my job, or if I could get over to Walgreens or Walmart to use their machines, because I didn't have one at home. Thankfully, I would have used it nonstop. I was always checking vitals, so I would try to do that in the car as well. So it was hell. It was hell. The longer the trip, the worse it would be. And I would have these other fears too that I would spiral off. It wasn't just like, oh, my chest hurts and I'm worried that there's something bad gonna happen to me in the car. It was like, what if I like am driving and I have a heart attack and I'm like in the middle of two towns, because this drive was long. It was just a bunch of woods, middle of nowhere. an ambulance isn't going to be able to get to me probably in time. I'm just going to sit in the car and just die here by myself. And they're going to get here and they're going to find that I'm dead. You know what I mean? How horrible. And then I would have this fear that, like, what if I'm driving and I end up, having a heart attack and I can't control the vehicle and I run into some trees, and it's like, they're never going to think that I had a heart attack if I'm 21 years old, The average person isn't going to look at me and be like, oh, a heart attack was what that was. They're going to think I just was texting, or they're going to think I was recklessly driving, or maybe that I was wanting to just take my life or something. And then also I had this fear that I was going to hit somebody else head on because of me having a heart. So when chest pains and stuff would start to get worse, I would tend to try to pull over because I didn't want to pass out and faint and then kill somebody else too. And then I was thinking, like, man, they're going to think that I'm just this horrible, reckless person, or that I was trying to take myself and somebody else out, because they're never going to suspect that I had a heart attack. And if I do hit something head on and everything like that, my body's going to be so messed up, they're not going to be able to do the correct autopsy. And you know what I mean? This is how my mind would work. So I would just pull over if things were too intense, try to get on the phone, get my mom to calm me down. Or I'd try to just race there and gut it out. And most days I gutted it out. I didn't have to pull over and I was able to get to work. But the next 2 hours at work, once I got there, it was just bad until I could finally kind of calm down. And then guess what? I got the trip back home. And then up here in my mind, guys, I'm always thinking about, like, when's the next time I got to get in the vehicle? When's the next time I got to get in the vehicle? So it was crippling. I didn't get to do the things that I wanted to do, going places, whether it be a restaurant or even going to, like, golf, or, of course, things like work or going to an event or something like that. I was always thinking about the trip and worried about it. So that's where it starts. If you're wanting to get better, you have to change your perception of that trip. It's an opportunity. It's a chance to respond the right way. I don't need to respond in fear when I have these symptoms. And that's another thing that you're going to have to start doing. I know it's difficult. It's okay to be afraid, but we don't want to respond with fear. We want to respond with courage and bravery. I am okay. I am healthy. I've been checked out by the doctor. I always make it back. I'm safe. I'm a good driver. We're gonna be okay. You have to have a good belief that things are going to be okay for you to have the possibility for them to be okay. You know what I mean? You're not going to have a great trip if you're getting into the car like a loaded gun, expecting it to go horribly. So some of this starts the night before. Tomorrow is going to be a good day. Tomorrow's an opportunity. I'm going to get there safely. I'm not going to have a heart attack. I've been checked out so many different times. I got to start putting trust in the doctor and accept and move forward with this. So it starts with that. But exposure, guys, something else that can help, and this is something I wish I did a lot more of faster. I did start to do this, but just taking trips on your own, you know what I mean? And in a way, it kind of takes the pressure off. If you don't have to be somewhere at a certain time, you know what I mean? And you're getting in the car and you're going to try to push it maybe 10, 15 miles or something like that, I think it can take the edge off a little bit. And again, it can help you. It can help desensitize yourself to being in the vehicle. Some of you, even getting close to a vehicle, you're going to have anxiety. So start as small as you need to, but exposure needs to start now. And you have opportunities when you're not going to work. I know we're all busy, or whenever you're not going to school, or in between all these trips or grocery, you have opportunities to get out of the house and go drive. Don't make any excuses for yourself, okay? You have opportunities, and I'm labeling it as opportunities. You need to label it the same thing, right? You need to do it as well. Opportunities. These are chances to desensitize and to show my subconscious that things can be okay. If you got to start by just sitting in the car for a little bit and do that for a few days, turn the radio on, the AC, whatever you got to do, and then back in and out of your driveway, then go around the block, then take a side road before you start getting on the highway, and then expand on the mileage and the time and the distance and all that, and build on it. You can get out of it. It takes time. If you're looking for some extra help, guys, my course is down below, my recovery course, ELITE Anxiety Bootcamp. I'm going to read you a review real quick. Check out Trey Jones' Anxiety Bootcamp class. I started it this week and I'm already seeing a difference. Follow everything to a T and be diligent in making sure you're applying everything. I'm telling you, this has worked better than any medication or therapy I've been through. And for all the value you get in the class, you can't beat the price. So that's going to just give you all the steps in order in what I did basically to recover from my panic disorder, my health anxiety, my generalized anxiety, of course. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. I didn't have therapy. I didn't do therapy anyways. I didn't, have access to YouTubers like myself and others that are doing videos nowadays. There wasn't a whole lot of relatable stuff out there. That's one of the reasons I started this channel. So, hopefully this video could at least relate with you. Get busy with exposure. Don't put it off anymore. You know, you deserve to get better. You deserve to get better, okay? There's other resources. My coaching information and Facebook groups and stuff like that are down below. I love you guys. I love you guys. If you're new here and it's the first time that you're seeing me, please subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.